get some of your phone calls this morning on a Friday. It's now 8:10, live and local. I'm Greg Bishop. And I'm not going to lie, Fridays are about the time that I'm ready to just hang my stuff up and just be done for the weekend. I work pretty heavy hours, so the weekends are mine. I don't know what to expect throughout the day today. We still got some things that could pop, like, say, a temporary restraining order ruling out of White County, where Thomas DeVore argued that case, his legal team arguing that case Wednesday in White County on behalf of nearly 1,700 plaintiffs in that challenge of Illinois' gun law. So is that something that could happen today? I don't know. It was last week, about 4:45 Friday, when you had the temporary restraining order drop in the Effingham County case. So that could possibly happen today. You've got the Paul Pelosi video, the body cam video that could be published today, so we'll be watching out for that. You've also got the story of some police beating up a individual and the body cam footage being found on that. So obviously some national stories getting a lot of attention. And just also, we have barely touched on this week, the classified documents that are being found all over the place. There might be some classified documents here. Let me make sure that these things I printed out today don't have classifications on them, but I mean, it's getting kind of out of hand. What in the world? The fact that you got the vice president being found with classified documents, the former vice president Mike Pence, he's from Central Casting, and he's being found with these documents after he said, I would never take home classified documents. Well, Mr. Vice President, it looks like there were some classified documents. So you can sound off on that. So many other things to get to this morning. Of course, typically we do Hero of the Week in this segment as well, where you can take time to highlight who you think's gone above and beyond to help out the community. It's a great way to end the week. So if you've got a good hero vote, you can throw that out there as well. But really, a hodgepodge of things for you to sound off on. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Morning, Greg. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, I'm using my my iPods. My AirPods. Anyway, I just wanted to say we've got a huge problem today. It's greed, government, and corporations. We have this vicious revolving door of government and corporation. You've got, well, from my side of things, I'm heavy into the stock market. And you've got regulatory authorities such as the SEC who turn around and take jobs with the different Wall Street firms. Right. You've got people in Congress, the committee on, that watches over the banking sector. They revolve right back around and they work for them.
Well, it's the same thing, too, with the pharmaceutical industry, where you've got regulators that then go and work for the pharmaceutical industry in high-ranking positions. Begs the question about conflicts of interest, begs the question about a whole host of things that could be nefarious.
Yeah, and that whole Jordan Walker thing it just blows my mind. I've watched that video over and over and over again, trying to not discredit Mr. O'Keefe, but I always like to try to find another way to look at it. And
for people who aren't familiar with what you're talking about, and I only have seen a few things about this, Project Veritas has a new undercover video, and then also the reaction of them approaching the subject and essentially being locked in a restaurant. And for people who aren't familiar with it, give us your understanding. This is a Pfizer executive that they caught. What was going on there?
So, yeah, he's a Pfizer executive. They say he's 2 reports removed from the actual CEO, Borla, of Pfizer. So he's pretty high up the chain. And he was honeypotted into going out on a date, which he thought was a date, but he was recorded and asked a series of, well-thought-out questions by the undercover Project Veritas journalist. And in that, he basically admitted to gain of function that Pfizer is actually considering or in the process of in order to create more vaccines and keep selling them to people. At one point, he says that COVID itself and the fact that they will be able to make these new vaccines is a cash cow for Pfizer. He said that when the undercover journalist asked if this was gain of function. He said, well, no, we don't tell the public that. What we call it is directed evolution. So it just goes on, and all your listeners need to go out on if you go on Twitter, I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Yeah, and I pulled it up on Twitter just to kind of show where people can find it. Of course, Project Veritas on Twitter being restored by Elon Musk, as was James O'Keefe restored on Twitter by Elon Musk. But it's a fascinating story, and what's interesting, too, is what I have seen of this is that the subject there that's being recorded undercover, when he was confronted by James O'Keefe, he freaked out, and he's like, what is this? Is this real life? He then started saying that he was just lying to impress a date. He came out right up front saying that, without hesitation, saying that calling himself a liar, saying that it was all hyperbole, it was all over the top. I was lying to try to impress a date. And then things got physical. Then, iPads started being slapped out of hands. You had James O'Keefe's security trying to keep him secure. For some reason, the restaurant they were in locked the doors, and James O'Keefe's like, please let us out. So it got pretty tenuous and rather fascinating, but that's something that people could check out. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention, and I'm sure people not seeing this on corporate media, they have to go to some of those alternative channels to find all of this.
Well, hey, I'll tell you real quick before I let you go, Greg. If I'm out on a date and I'm lying about my Porsche that's in the shop. I'm lying about going to the gym every day. Things like that. You're not going to lie about destroying humanity.
Well, yeah, it's bizarre to think that would be something people are willing to lie about. I appreciate the call. Springfield's Morning News, it is WMAY. You can call in live and local at 217-629-7970. We'll get more coming up here on WMAY and revisit some of the other headlines that we've been covering all morning long. So stay tuned. It's right here with Springfield. It's not quite the Pelosi video we were thinking of getting later on today, but apparently somebody on Twitter says that Paul Pelosi's DUI body cam footage released. They say they tried to hide this since May 2022. Taking a look at that on Twitter. But expecting to get other body cam footage, including of the police showing up to the call of an attack on Paul Pelosi, the former Speaker of the U.S. House's husband, Nancy Pelosi. So we'll see if we get that out at some point. It is Springfield's Morning News. You can always call in live and local at 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here. And, of course, we've touched on all kinds of things today. We started off by getting out there the fact that the Illinois State Police have moved to consolidate several federal cases into one, and that was expected. There was going to be some kind of consolidation, but the fact that they took a county level case that was issued in state court, moved it out of state court into federal court, and then said, hey, since this was the first case filed, we're going to consolidate everything into this case. People already raising to me questions about, number one, the federal judge who's going to oversee this being an Obama appointee in the Southern District of Illinois, and then number two, the lead counsel in the Crawford County case that moved from state court to federal court, people being suspect of that individual as the lead attorney in this. So we'll be watching that closely to see what happens with the gun ban and the state police looking to consolidate that. But we also talked about how the McHenry County State's Attorney is now the first state's attorney to file a lawsuit against the gun ban. They've got a temporary restraining order motion that they expect to have heard on Monday. So we'll be monitoring that and get you the latest. So a lot of moving pieces there. So that's just some of what we talked about, including some sheriffs reaffirming that they are not going to enforce the gun ban. State Representative Adam Niemerg had those sheriffs with him. We may revisit some of that audio a bit later on as well. Good morning. You're on WMAY. What's up?
Hey, Greg, I'm going to change the subject a little bit.
That's fine.
The person that was beaten in Memphis by police and died, do we know, maybe I've missed it, but what was the reason for the original police encounter with him?
Yeah, and I really haven't been following that story. I think that's Tyree Nichols is who you're talking about, and the law enforcement that are under a big magnifying scope here, rightfully so, because anytime somebody is either maimed or loses their life at the hands of law enforcement, we have to scrutinize that thoroughly. So I don't know exactly what the rationale was for the traffic stop. I've seen some speculation speculation that even the chief is saying that they don't really know what the rationale was for the traffic stop. But, yeah, people obviously watching that case very close.
Well, apparently they're going to release it, I think, on YouTube at 6 Central.
Wow.
They want to wait till all the kids are home, out of school. Obviously, it's a Friday. But, you know.
Yeah, it could get very explosive. Let's just put it that way, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, I just didn't know if I missed it or not.
Yeah, I appreciate the call. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Good morning. You're on WMAY. Thanks for your patience. You're on the air. Good morning.
Hello.
Yeah, that's you. Go ahead.
I had a question for you. I was listening to the mayoral debate, and two things I didn't hear. I was wondering why they didn't talk about some of the violent crimes that happened in Harvard Park. I didn't hear anything about crime. Because I live in the Harvard Park neighborhood, and on 6th and 7th Street, there was a shooting and it had to do, I believe, with a gang indicator.
I am having some problem hearing you, and if I'm having problems hearing you, likely people listening are having a problem hearing you. But I think what I heard was you say you listened to the mayoral debates here in Springfield, and you did not hear the issue of crime discussed to the level that you wanted to hear. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah, and listen, that was just the first of what I expect to be several mayoral debates between incumbent Jim Langfelder and the challenger Misty Buscher, and likely crime is going to be a focal point because you're right, there have been instances of some crimes downtown. Yeah, they may not have been during normal business hours, but anytime somebody opens fire in a downtown area, that's a problem. So, yeah, I think the issue of crime, we heard a lot about pop-up street parties or block parties that were happening last summer and the summer before last, and how they are going to get control of that. You've got a whole host of concerns, obviously, as any municipality has to deal with, especially a municipality the size of Springfield. So that's going to be an ongoing conversation, no question, as to the debate between those two individuals looking to be the next mayor of the city of Springfield. Appreciate the calls. We'll get more of them. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Coming up now on 8:30. Got another half hour left, so let's get your calls and finish strong. Right now, though, let's get a headline check here on WMAY. And we're back with Springfield's Morning News, where you can always chime in live and local. Finishing up the rest of this hour with your phone calls and just an overview of all the things we've talked about so far this morning. One of them being that the state is seeking to consolidate federal lawsuits against the state's gun ban as a new lawsuit filed in state court from a state's attorney's office against the gun and magazine ban. This, of course, is after you've got just dozens of sheriffs across the state saying they're not going to enforce it. And you also had sheriffs reaffirm their position, saying they're not going to enforce unconstitutional laws as they see it. And they say that the gun ban is unconstitutional. We may hear some of that coming up, of course, but it all depends on how many phone calls we get, where you can call in live and local at 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're up. What's up?
Hey, I heard this from my brother the other day, and I'm not on the internet, but he said that in Champaign County, Pritzker's family is supposed to be building a private 10-lane gun range. Have you heard that?
Well, what I've heard is that in Wisconsin, a site has been given approval for a gun range, and there might be some kind of association with the Pritzker family in that. I haven't heard anything about it in Champaign County, but I honestly, I haven't really delved into that story too much.
Okay, well, I figured I'd ask you.
Sure. And I've seen it reported out of, I think, the Kenosha news outlets have that story. I had it pulled up earlier this week, but listen, there's only so much of the gun story I can track. And what I've been doing is tracking the latest litigation. And the latest litigation is you've got 3 lawsuits in federal court with a 4th that was moved from state court to federal court, and the state police looking to consolidate 3 of the existing federal cases into this 4th newly minted federal case that comes from state court, and state police looking to consolidate that. But, I think it's important we re-aired just a little snippet of the Illinois State Rifle Association's Richard Pearson sharing with us yesterday the importance of getting a restraining order against the gun ban before Illinois State Police open up the window to start registration of guns, which is going to be October 1st. Here's Richard Pearson talking about the importance of getting that restraining order. And we'll get to that, of course. Got to do this, that, and the other, and log back into this account. That's awesome. Gotta love it. So here is Richard Pearson from the State Rifle Association, who talked with us yesterday about this.
So we had a temporary restraining order, then that stops everything and gives us time to argue for a permanent restraining order. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of legal maneuvering in that time after that is done.
So he wants to make sure that there is a temporary restraining order statewide so that individuals' Second Amendment rights, as he says, are not trampled upon any further. So will that happen before October 1st with all of these various cases and the movements and how, is it going to be consolidated? Are we going to have temporary restraining orders issued county by county until all of a sudden there's a consolidation on the statewide cases? So a lot of movement there. But with the McHenry County State's Attorney's Office filing a lawsuit, I did chat with the Assistant State's Attorney in McHenry County, and he had to share with us about why they're filing this case. And he laid it out. This is Todd Owens from the McHenry County State's Attorney's Office.
Well, we believe that the law is blatantly and facially unconstitutional, being compelled essentially to participate in the prosecution of an offense or an offense that we believe is unconstitutional puts us in an ethical quandary. Essentially having to enforce a law that we don't believe is square with the Second Amendment.
So again, state's attorney, the first that I'm aware of, filing a lawsuit against the gun ban. Will other states' attorneys follow suit and file lawsuits? We'll see if that happens, but it's obviously a moving target, no pun intended, when it comes to these various lawsuits. So I've been tracking all of these lawsuits, watching where they're going. My count now, I think there's 8. Let's see here, 2 from Tom DeVore. One has a restraining order in Effingham County. The state's appealed that. DeVore's responded to it. That's in the 5th Circuit Appellate Court and State Court. So that's one case that Tom DeVore has in Effingham County. Another case in White County. We could get a temporary restraining order ruling anytime now. I'm not sure if it's going to happen today or Monday or when that's going to drop, but we could get that in the White County case. Then you have in federal court, the Crawford County case that started in state court that's now been moved to federal court. You have 3 other cases separate, the Illinois State Rifle Association's case, the Illinois Gun Rights Alliance case, the National Shooting Sports Foundation case, 3 separate cases that the state police motioned to have the Crawford County case be the lead case in consolidating those 4 cases. But what's not clear is how a case against Naperville's gun ban that was filed back in September is going to impact the consolidation efforts state police have, because that case against Naperville's gun ban this week was amended to include challenging the state's gun ban. So is that case going to impact the consolidation efforts in the Southern District? We'll watch that closely as well. So I think I've lost count. 3 state-level cases, including the one from McHenry County, and then ISRA, the NSSF, Illinois Gun Rights Alliance, and the Crawford County case. So that's 7 cases. I expect there to be more cases filed. We'll keep an eye on all of that for you. 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Are you taking hero votes?
We can, yeah. If you want to take a crack at it, go ahead.
Man, I'll tell you what. I was watching Tucker Carlson last night, Bishop, and talking about mayoral candidate races. Chicago, the candidate Willie Wilson was on Tucker Carlson just lambasting the current mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot.
And what did he have to say? What was his goal?
It was perfect. He was like, he will go down in history as the worst mayor ever to reside over a city of any size in the United States of America. And he was just going to town to the point where, I'm not a huge Tucker fan, but Tucker just let him speak. I was like, man. This guy would make a
Well,
hell of a mayor.
and Willie Wilson has been in politics up in Chicago for a long time. He's independently successful, a businessman. I believe he dealt in medical supplies and made his millions that way. He's been, if you recall, he gave out a couple of $1 million in free gas not too long ago.
He said, Tucker, I don't even want a paycheck. I just want to fix my broken city, Tucker.
Yeah.
Pay me nothing. Let me do the job.
Right on. So I take it your hero vote goes to Willie Wilson up in Chicago. Appreciate the call. 217-629-7970. That's how you can chime in here live and local. Something else I wanted to revisit from this morning is the sheriffs that continue to speak out against the state's gun ban. State Representative Adam Niemerg held a news event yesterday with sheriffs. And in particular, you've got a couple who spoke, and one of them being the Crawford County Sheriff. He sounded off and let his voice be heard as to why he's not going to enforce what he says is an unconstitutional law.
I'm a constitutional officer.
Here is the Crawford County Sheriff yesterday during a news conference.
I am a constitutional officer. I swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States first and foremost, and that me and several of the other sheriffs in the state, like most of us, and several state's attorneys, along with the Crawford County State's Attorney, have sent out these letters stating that we feel this law that has recently passed is unconstitutional, and how we do not want to, or how we are not going to enforce any of that law.
And then you also have another sheriff that spoke, this being Brandon Francis. He is the Jasper County Sheriff. He was also joining Adam Niemerg during this news conference, addressing his concerns. And he was asked if he has any fear of any retaliation for being an elected official not supporting or enforcing what he sees as an unconstitutional law.
Obviously, there's discretion in which law that we enforce, but a law that would be a violation of our constitutional rights is something that we would not enforce. I mean, that's, we don't commonly see that, but in this case, it's happened.
So, interesting to hear, again, more sheriffs reaffirm that they're not going to enforce what they see as an unconstitutional law. And that's like 90-plus sheriffs across the state's 102 counties that have come out explicitly saying they're not going to enforce this law. How do you go about even enforcing something like this? You can always sound off 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. And we'll finish things up next here on WMAY. It is now 8:49. All right, final segments for the week, and you can always chime in live and local, or if you're listening online, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. Something we didn't get to this week, the conversation around a possible change to the Illinois Constitution concerning income taxes. Illinois has a flat income tax in the state constitution, and lawmakers have changed the rates, but they can only change the rates for everybody. It's a flat income tax. But if you recall, there's been a push for years to change the state constitution from a flat income tax to an income tax with higher rates for higher earners. So the more successful you are, even as a small business, you might have to pay more if this was to be approved by voters. But back in 2020, voters rejected the progressive income tax. Well, there's apparently some rumblings to bring that back, and some lawmakers at the State House having this debate as they enter a new General Assembly. You had Republicans that addressed this during a news conference earlier this week, and we just didn't have time to get to it. But here is Senate Minority Leader John Curran talking about a resolution they're filing to make sure that the state does not have the prospect of a progressive income tax.
We are here today to talk about our firm resolution to reject the latest attempts at changing to a progressive income tax. The proposal by Senator Rob Martwick that we stand firmly in opposition to. The results of the 2020 ballot initiative were unmistakably clear. The people have spoken. They don't want to change our Constitution to a progressive income tax. It failed in the collar counties and throughout the rest of the state, despite a $60 million campaign designed to sell this to the voters. It failed because Illinois voters are sick and tired of writing blank checks to their state government, and the government keeps coming back for more and more. Despite the proponents' plan, voters see that this will raise taxes on everyone, the middle class, and could open up the door to taxing retirement income. Illinois already has the highest tax burden in the nation and implements the highest corporate income tax rate as well. It's time to move in a new direction that does not include overtaxing the people we are supposed to be representing. The Senate Republicans are committed to listening to the people and fighting against the blatant tax increase on Illinois families and businesses. That is why we have introduced this resolution to call on our colleagues from both sides of the aisle to reject any attempt to establish a progressive income tax for the remainder of the 103rd General Assembly.
So again, that's Senate Minority Leader John Curran talking about the resolution that they have, saying that taxpayers are fed up. They don't want to give government a blank check. I was able to talk with State Senator Robert Martwick, who is a proponent of this. However, he says there's nothing been filed yet. There is no constitutional amendment that has been filed at the State House for this General Assembly. But here he is talking about just the overall idea of what he says is the need for a progressive income tax in the state of Illinois.
I don't know how they would know that the voters wouldn't want it since nothing's been filed yet, right? This is an idea. We're working on a proposal. There was a lot of talk of bipartisanship. Well, bipartisanship starts with having an open mind. So the idea that they would propose a resolution or they would propose a resolution to oppose something that they haven't even seen yet is kind of fascinating. Look, two problems remain, and I agree with my friends on the other side of the aisle about this. We overtax the middle class. We have the highest tax burden, middle class tax burden in the country. Yep, we're number one, and we need to reduce that. And the other problem is that we're on a pending financial catastrophe. We're on a path to a place where the state will once again have to cut funding for education, cut funding for essential services, public transportation. We'll stop investing in our roads. Our bridges will crumble because we're not paying attention to that. So this is an idea. Is it the best idea? I don't know. But it's an idea. It's a solution for those problems. What I would say is that this is my solution. What's yours?
So again, that's State Senator Robert Martwick talking about the possibility of a proposed progressive income tax in the state of Illinois, something that would require a constitutional amendment. All right. Appreciate everybody tuning in. What a week, another jam-packed week, and obviously be keeping a close eye on all things that happen with the litigation around guns. So stay with me on Twitter, Bishop on Air on Twitter, also posting on YouTube as well with some of the latest content, even stuff off air. We'll try to update you there, Bishop on Air on YouTube. Have yourselves a great rest of the day. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll be back here live and local from 6 to 9 Monday morning. It's 9 o'clock.
From the Fly SPI studio.